Welcome to A View from the Summit, where we explore the unique relationship between humans and animals. Whether it's an Olympic partner or couch buddy, a working companion or unique pet, a world champion or someone you think the world of. Join us for a look at animals in our lives. Brought to you by Summit Animal Health. Welcome, everybody, to View from the Summit. We have a wonderful program, just like we do every week. But first, my name is Steve Searcy, and I'm your co-host, and I want to introduce my better half, or other half, Robin Benson. And just so that you know, she's an equestrian lady. Not more than 15 minutes ago, she was on her horse rounding up cattle on her ranch in northern Minnesota. Welcome to the call, Robin.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I almost had to do this call from the pasture, but that's how we roll around here, horse people. I mean, you just never know, right? Because we love our animals and they keep our life unpredictable. But I'm super glad to be here today with you and, of course, our guest, Becky George, who, man, I'm super excited to chat. She loves the color pink. I love the color pink. We already have a lot to chat about. So welcome, Becky. And if you want to tell us a little bit about you, where you are chatting from and kind of what you do, it would be awesome to introduce yourself to our guests.
Okay, well, I live in lovely Hockley, Texas, which is right by Houston. So right now it's maybe 110. We haven't caught the break for the cool weather yet that everybody else has. I train quarter horses, specializing in the trail and Western riding. We have youth kids and amateurs, and we haul all over with those. And I also judge quarter horse paint and NSBA shows, so my schedule is crazy busy. And I like to talk, so I get elected for these things all the time.
Well, we're super glad you're here, and we love to chat too. So this ought to be exciting. And if you're listening or watching, you can watch it on YouTube or listen on Spotify. We would love to hear from you and your feedback on this, because as always, we are here for you guys listening and gals. And since we all love to chat, this is sure to be lively. So
You may think you know what trail riding is all about, but you don't know how lucky we are to get this lady, because I've tried in the past to schedule something. Becky, tell us about your travel schedule. How many days on the road are you out there?
Gosh, I think it's easier to say how many days am I home. We travel, obviously we qualify. So you have to, the qualifying starts at September 1st, and then it goes till July 31st of the next year, and to qualify for the World Show. So we have to haul quite a bit to qualify. And also my customers just like to go horse shows. So we go to a lot of shows. We are actually home for 2.5 weeks, which is crazy right now, but we leave on October 3rd for the Quarter Horse Congress. And like I go there till the 20th, I think. We drive home. I'm home for 2 days, and we move into the World Show at Oklahoma City. And I have to fly out from there and judge a horse show, and then fly back in. And one of our customers is in their prelims the very day that I fly back in. And then we're there for 2 weeks. We're home for maybe a week, and I fly back out to judge a horse show. We're home for a couple of weeks, and then we go to Florida for the kind of the winter series. It's like the Gold Coast, Gulf Coast, Foxley, and we're down there for a good 5 or 6 weeks. And then it just keeps going. I'm home for a week, and then I go, and then we're home but 2 weeks is a big deal for me to be home.
So how do you juggle, like, you have a lot of horses in training, you have clients with their horses, you help show and you coach. How many people do you have helping at home? How do you juggle keeping your horses going? Because horse people, we know it's consistency, especially training young ones or even any of them, right? How do you keep that consistency with the travel? It's intense. A lot of people show, but how many people do you have helping you? I know you're in the trenches every day, grinding it out, doing a lot of it yourself. How does that even work?
We we have less than probably everybody else does. I have 2 guys that work for me at home, and pretty much they take the daily care of the horses, feeding, cleaning, that good stuff. I've got 2 girls that alternate coming in, whether that they're working horses in the round pen, saddling, washing, stuff like that. And then we have my mom, who she is the one that basically runs the show. Mom is the one that stays home and oversees the barn. Obviously, she's did this since that I was a kid. So she is the hands-on manager at home when I'm off and about, so I don't have to stress too much. My mom's 82, so she's a whippersnapper, but I mean, she keeps those boys in line, and she's so horse savvy that if something happens, she knows immediately to call me, call somebody else. I have a very big group of people around that can go if one gets sick, that I need a shot or so on. And then as far as the training, it's just Holton and myself. We probably don't keep as many horses in training as other people. We've got, I would say, close to 30. That is a lot for the 2 of us. And we do a lot of young horses. I love the young horses. The 3-year-old trail is really where I love to get them ready for. And then to turn them into all around horses and sell them when they're 4 and 5. And so most of our customers are definitely all show people. Those horses, the main horses, stay on the road with us unless they're younger horses. And then it works out well because they're intense for a couple weeks when we're home, and then they get a little chill, and then intense. And then a lot of them, we also, as they're coming up, they go to the horse shows with us. So it's a lot of hands-on. Most of our main show string doesn't sit at home.
So how many horses do you haul when you haul to a show?
Average 12 probably. So I have an 8-horse trailer. We just bought a brand new trailer from Elite, which is absolutely stunning. Not something I was planning on buying right now at my age, but it just worked out that way. It is a wonderful trailer. And then we have a 4-horse that we take as well. And a couple of the customers have trailers and they can haul some. So at times we've had 16, or more, but 12 is an average. And that's a lot for us because when we take for the trail horses, there's like maybe the green trail, the junior trail, the senior trail, and then the customers, the amateur, the youth, and so on. And so we have on trail day at the horse show, we have a lot showing. So it's hard for us to take more than that.
Wow. You travel with a herd.
We do. Yes, we do. Very much so.
And you have help. It's customers. You have people with you at the show. I mean, people who have horses, right? If you're listening and you're a horse owner, you love your horse and it's a lot of work, right? And one thing that we love to chat about, and Becky, you're the perfect person to bring this to light, is like the real life of it, right? Because we see you at the show ring, we see you in the winner's circle, we see you all dressed up, we see you, doing all of the things at a horse show, but the reality of what it takes to win or even just get to a show and compete is it's sometimes not. I mean, we say this about life in general, but for horse people, sometimes we don't even realize what it takes behind the scenes, so
right. I mean, the commitment is ridiculous, right? Not ridiculous, but people need to understand it is a full-time commitment, because when we're home, it's nonstop riding. The ones that have been at the show maybe get a break for a little bit, and then you're into 2 days or 3 days for the other ones to get them ready. I always tell my customers it's really hard to develop a good show horse unless they go along to the shows, because it's much easier to have them at the shows and let them learn to just be there. It's just a training place. It's another place we're going to go and ride, so we don't have the stress and the anxiety. No big deal. So it's for sure an investment, because they're having to send their horses down the road with us. But when they get ready to show, it's so easy. We don't have any of those stress factors involved in it. But at home, even like we set a trail course, every few days, and like a trail course, it may have 75 or 100 poles in it. So, some people don't really know what that is. And I try to explain it. It's real similar to the jumping. It's the jumping on the ground. And we're given a course at the horse show, and we have to maneuver through that. We just do it in a Western saddle on a loose rein. And so we're setting courses and redoing it at home all the time. So it's the commitment of doing that, taking the course up, dragging the arena, putting another course back down. It's definitely nonstop. There's so much work that goes in. Probably the most irritating thing for me is if someone you overhear at a horse show and there's like, oh, well, that girl, she just wins because that like she can buy nice horses or her parents have bought her a nice horse. And that's the most frustrating because you can buy the nicest horse, but if you haven't put the time in to become a partner with that horse, it doesn't make any difference. So that just doesn't happen. I mean, you have to put your time in no matter what.
Becky, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Steve.
But when all this work to be a professional, when did it occur to you that you wanted a career as an equestrian?
Let's see, when I was 10, it's all I ever wanted to do. I have literally grown up living, eating, and breathing horses. I don't know anything different. My hobby is my boat, and I surf behind the boat. But it took me a long time to even develop a hobby till I was, definitely older and was like, I need to find something to do. I've got to do something to give my mind a break other than horses. But no, I literally always knew I was going to be a horse trainer. I didn't know if I was going to be good at it, but by golly, I was going to be a horse trainer. We had a boarding barn when I was a kid. And luckily enough, I started by, teaching 4-H kids and just taking them to the 4-H shows. And then at 25, I moved to Texas and apprenticed down here with several different trainers. And then that's how I've never left. I was supposed to be born in Texas. It just didn't happen. And now some of my kids that I had as youth way back when are now horse trainers that are super, super successful and kicking my butt. So it's like a full circle. But yeah, I never had another career in mind at all. But I also think it's really hard for the up and coming horse trainers. There's not many of them out there because they realize how much blood, sweat, and tears go into it. And that if you're not willing to be committed to this as your complete life, it's not going to work. For instance, you really don't have a social life. You're not involved. I mean, your social life is horses. I'm single, and probably because, I'm hard-headed and don't try to bend very easily, but it's difficult. I mean, I'm on the road all the time and every day the horse is the most important thing. There's always a horse that needs, I got to go do this, or this one needs medicine, or I need to ride this one more time. Or you wake up in the middle of the night going, man, if I would have just tried this today, I think it would have worked. That's when I think that you can be a good horse trainer. Is when you wake up in the middle of the night and it irritates you and you can't wait to get out there first thing in the morning to try it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it will come to you and you're like, I got to try this because I think it's gonna help. So we literally, when they say we live, eat, and breathe horses, it's just the truth. We don't know anything but horses.
That's so cool because it's really insightful too, because you hear so many people say, oh, I wish I could make my living with horses, or oh, I wish I could, I've always dreamed about spending my life with horses. And I'm not trying to dispel the fantasy or the fun, because I mean, as a horse lover, we love it. We do it for the love of the horse, right?
Right.
But there are those other sides of the coin that, people don't realize. So on the flip side, like you said, it still drives you. The passion's still there. What are a few things that you do? You said you have your boat, but what are a few things you do to stay sharp? Because in any profession, any discipline, any sport, anything, like you have to stay sharp and keep your skills sharp and improve, right? Because I mean, I don't know if you believe this, but I believe there's no status quo. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And the same with a horse. So what do you do to keep yourself sharp, to keep your horses sharp? Because if, like you said, your students, which is a huge testament to you, who you started, are now, training and very competitive and even beating you. What do you do to stay sharp and competitive and keep your horses sharp and competitive?
Right. And I think it's at this, it kind of evolves. Like the young trainers come out and they learn their trade, they get good horses, they become very successful, and then they either plateau and that kind of stays there, or they branch off. Maybe they just get more into, they go into the breeding part, or they go into, things change so much. But when then there's those of us that, I still love showing as much as I did when I was a kid. So I don't want to go out there thinking that I can't win. So you have to be confident enough in yourself to ask people that you respect questions, so that's the thing I love about the quarter horse industry. When we're at the horse show, I can ask people that I highly respect and think that they do an amazing job. Blake Weiss is so successful in our business and wins so much. Sarah Simons is so successful, and I've known her since she was an itty bitty kid, and just have the utmost respect for the business that she's made. But I have no problem saying, what do you think about this? Or this horse is doing this, and what do you think? And we bounce ideas off of each other. And the most successful people in our business are the first ones to give you help and be like, oh, I don't know, but let's try this, or, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that's what keeps you sharp. You can't be arrogant enough to think that you don't need help, because as long as we don't ever quit learning, then I think we can keep improving. And I love helping people, like the clinic part of it, and just taking someone that doesn't know even any particular part of the trail. They're struggling. Then I dig it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to help you. Okay, you're going to hate me by the time we're done, but we're going to sit here and we're going to figure this out. And so I think that's the biggest part. You just have to be comfortable enough to ask for help, because if you think that you've learned everything, then you're at a plateau and you're never going to get any better. And I always want to be better. And I don't ever want to walk in that show pen that I feel like I'm just walking in and going through the motions. If I'm going in, I'm either building a horse that I know at some point is going to be a champion, or I feel like I can win that day. But I don't want to just go in and go, well, this is great. I'm just participating right now. This is what I get paid to do, because that is not me. And so I think that's the key to it, right? You just have to want to be successful and make those horses successful, because not every horse is great at the trail, but you find those ones that are exceptional, and then you kind of just have to point them in the right direction. And if they're not, it's also my job to find something they're better at. Here, this is what you're really good at, the Western riding, or this horse is really good at the horsemanship, and focus on what they're good at, because it's ridiculous to make a horse do something that they're not going to be successful at when we have so many horses to choose from.
That is such a golden nugget, right? Because not every horse is like every person. Not every person's meant to be a doctor or a lawyer or a horse trainer or an engineer. Everybody has a strength, in an area. And that is really a great point.
Right.
As far as,
I'm sorry, Becky, for somebody that's listening, or I know there'll be a lot of amateur trail riders here, what's the one bit of practical advice that you can give them that you found that most amateur trail riders might overlook or brush by real quick? What's the one thing that
I don't know that they overlook it, but truly the most important thing is consistency and practice. We don't just go to the horse show and then I go home and I don't set poles out for 2 weeks and we load the horses up and go to the horse show again. There gets a point where you give your horses a break, because you're going over poles over and over and over every day. They need a break. So they're just like, I have picked my feet up and not hit those poles for 2 weeks in a row and I am done. World shows are always tough. Like, we just got done with the NSBA World Show in Tulsa, and it is 2 weeks long, and you start, early on, I think it was like the green trail, which green is horses that have only earned 25 points and under. So they're starting horses. This is like their first or second year showing. And then ended up, the last class is the 4 and 5 year old trail futurity, which again is a lot of your green horses, right? And there was, some of my horses had great success early on at the World Show. And then by the last day, they were just like, dude, they showed great, but they ticked poles, and ticking is penalties. And So we weren't the world champion that day, and there was nothing about them that I was upset with. They showed great. They were just tired. But I gave them home. I gave them a break. And then it's back. It's kind of like calisthenics, right? It's back at setting poles and making them to pick their feet up and go over it. So the one thing an amateur person can do that can do the same thing that we do every day is just exercising over and over again of, setting up those obstacles and making your horses go over the poles.
So what do you do? Those long shows are grueling for the horses, right? I mean, they are like in stalls and they're working, and you have a lot of horses and they travel a long distance. What do you do to keep your horses feeling good? They're young. Some of them are young horses too. And even, the young horses can get sore and achy, and just, it's demanding on them, especially as they're growing and developing. But, the older horses too. How do you keep them feeling good? Because, you want them to feel their best when they're showing, right?
Right.
And Becky, you've got some, there you go. Okay, go ahead. You had your thumb on your camera.
Well, that's one of the answers is easy. I keep my horses consistently on Summit. They stay, regardless of whether we're showing or not, they're on it twice a month. But when we're showing it on the road, some of those horses I give it once a week. And the older ones, I may give it at like a world show. As a matter of fact, this year at the world show, I gave it like every 5 days. So more than once a week. It was just like every 5 days I gave them a shot of Summit to keep things going. I mean, if they're going up and down and over poles every day, and obviously we're elevating the poles to teach them to pick their feet up. So they're going higher than what they would when we show. They are going to get wore out. It's no different than us going to the gym and going on the stair stepper every day, but then pushing ourselves to higher and higher and higher. And we have to have something to make it feel better. So, I have found that I use way less of like bute or Banamine, for instance, anti-inflammatories, that I sense that I keep them on a consistent regimen of the Summit. And so I think it's very important to stay ahead of the game and be proactive, not wait until something's wrong. Like my young horses are all on Summit, because that way I'm getting ahead of the game and I don't have to worry about it catching up with me. And like there's things at the show. They have the chirotherapy, they have the saltwater therapy, like all of the big shows will have that come in. And I mean, there's some horses that I recommend and owners take them over and do it. But for the most part, I think it's super important to have a really good farrier, and it's super important to keep proactive on your horses feeling good prior to ever going to the horse show.
How long have you been using Summit?
Gosh, that's a good question. Let's see. I'm going to say since, we'd have to ask Dorian, 2017, 2018, maybe. I mean, quite a handful of years for sure.
That's cool. And what was your first experience like with Summit? What made you say, "Oh, there's the deal"?
Yeah, a friend of mine, we were at the Florida Gold Coast, and that's there in Tampa. That's the one that I told you I go down for several weeks. And I had a horse that was just, it wouldn't show. It was great in the warm up. It was great at home, but when it got in the show pen, it literally was so naughty. And it'd buck on its owner. It was a horsemanship horse. But when you got ready, you thought you were fixing to win everything. It was wonderful. And we kind of came down to the fact that it was hurting, but it knew the entire time, like getting ready, that it kind of had to stay in control. It was it wanted to abide by the rules, but I think pain took over. And so when you would get in the show pen, it'd have that only time that he could kind of lash back out at you. And it generally was with the owner, not me, but then he would be ornery. So a friend of mine said, "Hey, I had a mare that she struggled, blah, 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 blah. If you just try this, just try it." And one thing I will say is I'm very open to trying things on the horses. I think, you can't just be one of the, "Oh, that's a gimmick and I don't want to try it," because we come up with new medicines and new things all the time, and you got to give it a whirl to see what happens. That's my biggest thing that I push on everybody. Like, if they're having trouble with their horse, I'm like, just try the Summit. What's it going to hurt? It's not going to hurt them. If you love it, great. And if you don't, I won't believe you because I know it helps them. But okay. And so anyway, she told me to try it, and literally like a couple days and this horse was a different animal. And I was like, I am sold on it. I'm definitely one of those that has to show me results. And it showed me great results. And then we started I started using it on more, and then I was one of the first people in the quarter horse to pretty much use it, and then that's how I became a sponsored rider, and now it's everywhere. Everybody uses Summit now if they're smart enough to use it. But I'll have people come every once in a while and they'll be like, I've never tried it before. I was like, well, let me hook you up. But I personally have never had anybody that I told about it that came back to me and said, well, I don't know, I don't think it worked, because I've never had one person that didn't see a difference.
That's awesome. And to have something when the chips are down, right, that you can
Right.
rely on, and for a horse of all ages, it's not going to hurt them. And it's
Right.
demanding what you do, your schedule, your travel, your trailering,
Yeah.
the young horses recovering and all that.
Tell me, oh, go ahead, Robin. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's great peace of mind to have that. Go ahead, Steve.
Do you have a horse right now that you're most excited about? You told us you're working 30 horses. Is there one star in there that we need to watch out for?
I have a really good set of horses right now, so I'm very fond of my horses. I have the one that's kind of my superstar right now his name is South Beach, and he's owned by Kate Upton. He's by one of my favorite sires, which is It's a Southern Thing. And you've actually, through some of the videos in the last couple of years and the pictures, it's been stuff of South Beach. He's kind of my main guy for the junior. But I also have another one. His name is Hot Impulses. And he's a 5-year-old. South Beach is a 4-year-old. And that one is also owned by Kate. Those are my two best junior trail horses. And I always have my steadies. Right now, I have a senior horse named Dreamin' for Jax, which is kind of a cool story. I had bought this horse in Florida as a young, I think he was 4 or 5 at the time I bought him. And I bought him just to take him home, teach him more events, and sell him. And I sold him 3 months later to some people in California, and it was a horse trainer, and her daughter had great success with him. In fact, she won a Globe at the 13 and under AQHA World. She did, won quite a bit. And he happened to come up for sale. Hold on, let me flip this.
Oh, I think
she may have flipped right on off. I'm not sure.
I think we lost her. Hopefully she can get back on here. I don't know what happened.
I don't know either, but that's the way it goes. So Robin, have you ridden trail? Have you done, I know you've ridden all kinds of stuff, but
I haven't ridden competitive trail in the AQHA. I've ridden some trail classes in when I was in 4-H, and we did horse shows, and all the different events. But
here she is. She's back.
Coming back. Yay. Yeah. But it was definitely not the level that she's doing it. But yeah, I have done some trail patterns, with the
sorry. Okay.
Was it something we said? Was it something we said or did? I mean,
I was like, a phone call was coming in and I pushed the wrong button. Anyways, to pick up. So his nickname is Sheldon, and Sheldon came up for sale at the Sun Circuit in Arizona. And I was looking for the next all-around horse for a 7-year-old daughter of one of my customers. And so we bought Sheldon back for her, and we have had great success. In fact, Mom just showed him at the NSBA World Show and was reserve world champion in the novice amateur Western riding. And Charlie, that's the 7-year-old, she showed at her first world show and made the top 15 in one of the classes. And so I'm real excited about those two. They're going to be a powerhouse when they get it together.
That's so exciting. And working with the kids, oh my gosh. I have a daughter who is, she's competing in mostly timed event stuff, but it's so fun to see the kids click with the horses, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fun. Charlie, so Nicole is her mom, and Nicole's my amateur that I've had I was thinking the other day, I don't know how many years they've been in the barn, but it's been 12 years or more. And then, I mean, obviously when Charlie was born, she was there. She's been on a horse ever since that she was able to sit up there. And so we've just been waiting for her time to actually be able to do it. And she's pretty young, getting out there already at 7. Our small fry events are actually 9 and under. So the kids can be 9, 10 sometimes, depending on their birthday. So we're kind of young hitting at it, but we're getting ready, boy. She's going to take them on.
Becky, you better be careful. That may be your new competition. You're just setting yourself up.
I've set myself up again. I know it.
Well, we want to really thank you for sharing your hot Texas day with us. I mean, I look at you and I start going, but we want to thank you for being with us.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad. You should come ride with me for a while.
Do you have to go do that later this afternoon?
Well, yep, actually, Charlie's coming for a lesson as soon as school's out. So she's going to the Congress. This will be her very first Congress. So we're trying to work hard to get ready.
That's perfect. Robin, what do you have to say?
Well, man, this has been really fun and insightful. Learned a lot. And if anybody's listening or watching and has questions, Becky, how do we follow you, get a hold of you, on social media or website? What are your connections?
Super easy. Becky George Show Horses on Facebook. You can follow that. Send me a message. I'm always happy to answer any questions. If it's something that, more entailed and you need to call, I love to do that. That's, like I said earlier, I love helping people. So, feel free to reach out, and, that's the easiest way to find me.
Super.
Perfect.
So Becky George Show Horses on Facebook.
Yes.
And if you have questions for Steve or myself or anybody, if anything you would like to see on future episodes or questions about this one, email Steve at steve@eternapure.com. And just thank you so much for being on here. This is super fun. It's always great to visit and learn and talking to people who are performing and working at your level with horses always fires me up. It always hopefully listening. If you are not inspired, you need to go back and start over, because Becky just has so much fire and energy, right? And it's contagious. And we just appreciate you sharing that with us. It lifts up and lights up our day. So thank you so much for being on.
You're very welcome.
All right, Becky, thanks so very much. Robin and Steve will be back next week for another View for the Summit. In the meantime, be safe and thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us for A View from the Summit. This program is made possible by Summit Animal Health. Check them out online at summitanimals.com. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next week for another View from the Summit.